for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We've completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
Alrighty.
We have launched.
What do you know? Doing it live.
We're doing it live.
We'll do it live.
Welcome, everybody.
We'll do it live.
We're doing it
We're
live.
doing it super
Doing
live.
it live.
Right.
Fuck it.
Doing it live.
See, we've made that clip a parody,
so-
so now it's okay to use.
That's right.
Welcome. Planet Green Trees is officially beginning. Episode number
The applause, Tommy.
520.
Justin.
520. And I remember not too long ago, we just did our 420th. That was a whole thing, remember?
I do.
Can you believe it's been 100 episodes since then?
I know.
Wow.
Can't wait till the 11 to
Think of-
7.
When's the next part?
Think about all the people that don't talk.
7:10?
Think about all the people that don't talk to us anymore because of that. There's just been 100 shows and all that hatred. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of hatred.
Yeah, a lot, actually.
Well, today is
Yeah.
the 17th of June. Is it true? Is it really that date? And I think it's the year 2021. I'm Michael Komorn, your host of Komorn Law PLLC. And we've got a wild and wondrous show planned for you tonight. For those of you listening, we are live on Facebook. We are hosting on YouTube. We would ask that you go there and give a little like or subscribe or whatever you feel like doing.
Do both.
Post a
Yeah.
question. We'd love to hear
Push
from
the
our
button.
audience and whatnot.
Give it a thumbs up.
But we have a great panel of entertainment here in the studio, and we have a fantastic guest that I'm looking forward to talking with. And let's discuss some of the topics we probably will not talk about tonight, but I may rant a little bit because there's always things floating around, and we haven't done that in a while. We're going to discuss a little bit about the Detroit legacy as it's defined, and we're going to get into the judge and halting the Detroit recreational cannabis ordinance and what that's all about. And also that Detroiters could be voting on reparations for black residents thanks to a grassroots effort, which brings us back to our guest tonight, who's a friend of mine, Detroit attorney, and what I believe is the person that's bringing this or attempting to bring this to the vote for the citizens of Detroit. His name is Todd Perkins, and he's going to be joining us about 8:30, calling in to discuss this and other things that are happening in the Detroit area.
He's been in the game a while, hasn't he, Michael? Criminal defense. And
He sure
I
has.
think I remember seeing him in the halls of Plymouth Court.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He runs around Wayne County and is a fantastic lawyer. I've known him for a very, very long time. And it brings us to why we're calling tonight's show I Love Detroit. And Detroit, of course, has been unique and obviously in a lot of ways compared to other cities surrounding and throughout the state of Michigan, but especially as it comes to cannabis. I think it's fair to say some of the things that were going on in the city of Detroit during the MMA were only happening in the city of Detroit and not anywhere else. And the city now finds itself in a very interesting situation where they've, after long and arduous contemplation, they created a local ordinance that is designed to create recreational marijuana licensing. And they have some unique features about it. And subsequent to the local government passing that law, there's a lawsuit filed, and a federal judge granted an injunction. And that current ordinance that allows for the issuance of recreational licenses is now on hold. And we are awaiting that opinion, and I understand that it's forthcoming within the week. But nevertheless, there's a lot of topics and issues to discuss on this, and we're going to be hearing about them tonight as Todd Perkins, Detroit attorney, will be calling in. There's a lot that Todd does around town. I'm not even doing him any justice by doing so, but before we get him out, we're going to get a good bio and introduction about some of the multiple good deeds that he does as a leader in the community, as a lawyer. So, Let's introduce our panel here as we go around the room. We have the Bunker Boys who refuse to come on camera, and that includes Tommy, Justin, and Dan. Oh, there you go, and Dan. We have sitting directly next to him the founder of Michigan Parents for Compassion, the one and only Jim Powers.
Good evening, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here, and we've got quite a interesting show up ahead of us. I think we've got some pretty progressive topics, and looking forward to the discussion and our guest.
Excellent. And while on screen we can see Steve Miller, and I haven't yet seen him come onto the screen yet, returning from who knows where, like just dropping out of like the mist, like this, whatever that is. Into our presence, we are blessed to have him rejoin us here at the mothership Planet Green Trees. Please welcome my dear friend, iguana lover and guitar aficionado and internationally renowned lawyer, Jeff Frazier.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to see you, brother.
Glad to have you back. I know you're going to be really entertaining, and in a few minutes I'm going to stop talking. You're going to take over for everything, okay? All right. And, of course, I don't know any other way to describe it, but he's like the critical team player at Komorn Law, the rover in softball circles. Of course, outstanding library from the 70s and even into the early 80s. Underrated abracadabra, I got to say. Please welcome my dear friend, Steve Miller of the Steve Miller Band.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good to be here as always. And it's going to be a good show tonight.
Exactly. And, of course, in the Zoom... What?
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Zoomaloom.
In the Zoomaloom room, we've got, from the Elevation Station and a YouTube influencer in her own right, promising still to publish many more videos, which will be up soon. She also
Yes, they will.
contributes to the various other podcast ideas we've come up with recently, which is like attorney bicycle enthusiast and attorney golfer enthusiast podcasts. But please welcome
Absolutely.
Amanda Joslin.
Thank you, Michael. I'm glad. I'm glad to be here, and I am really looking forward to this guest tonight. And we're going to have a lot of good shows, so don't forget to subscribe to the channels.
One of my running jokes, I'm just going to let everyone know, is going to be like, I'm going to be coming up with various other ideas for podcasts that will never happen, but I think, for a second, I think they're a good idea, like attorney bicycle enthusiasts. And we talked to Howard Woolridge last week. The first 20 minutes of that interview was about his bike trip across. So it got a little momentum for the other one is, of course, like attorney Little League baseball coach enthusiast podcast. That's one that may come up. I think I can see that.
That one could get a little weird, maybe.
There's also the one which is attorney, I think I got a good knuckleball, want to play pro ball now. It's never going to happen podcast. There's that one, of course. And they're just going to keep coming. I'm not going to filter them. So just be ready for that. So, Amanda, I have to tell you that when I see your background, I think they call it a screensaver or something like that. What's it called? Officially, it's a...
Yeah.
What's the official name for that? It's not a screensaver.
I don't know. It's like a Zoom background.
What is it,
I'm
Jim?
not sure.
It's a Zoom background. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Thank you,
Simplistic.
computer tech. It isn't. If I look and see what it is, there's a different name for it. I'm telling you.
Fake probable cause.
That's right.
And I'm reminded because in an affidavit for a search warrant, there's a picture, Amanda, of
That's what it looks like, doesn't it?
Of this exact
this exact thing. And I said, Judge, I appear in Zooms all the time where people have that in their background. It's a screenshot or a Luma.
It's a Zoomaloom.
Exactly.
But there was a picture in the. I go, I can't even count. Can't count how many plants that is. Let's
Like,
there.
look at that.
Right.
Infinite.
Ooh,
Right. I know. That's what I'm saying.
that one. That's nice.
That is
That's not usable, no.
That is a classic example of hemp. That's hemp.
Yes.
Jesus.
This is hemp. This is just. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was a plant recently posted on some social media site, and all jokes aside, obviously this is got a bud, so it's a girl. But somebody posted it on the social media with just a ton of spider mites on the
Yeah,
top
that
of
looks
it.
looked yummy, didn't it?
Hold on, but the point which made it funny was that the
Is that you're sitting in front of a Michigan Medical Marijuana Association banner?
well,
No, it wasn't
the
ours.
funny thing
No.
is that
No.
It's the
yeah, the Michigan
MCMA.
manufacturer, I don't know what are they called, MCMI, whatever,
Michigan
cannabis.
Manufacturers Association,
Right.
which is the group of folks that are trying to zone out the caregivers.
Apparently,
And
they're
they
using the
posted
spider
up-
mite method.
The story is
Yeah,
this.
they
Strength in
posted
numbers,
a real
Steve.
pic.
The story is
Their
this.
freaking plant was all sorry.
Right.
No.
No, they've created enough energy around themselves that they've easily become the enemy to patients and caregivers on multiple levels. They're pushing.
Well, I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves for a minute and realize that for the most part, this entity, in one form or another, has existed for a very long time. It just keeps morphing. And
Right.
Well, we're going to have a couple of guests on next week to talk exactly about this topic because, you know, there's a lot of background about the MCMA and how the grassroots or the caregiver system and them trying to do certain things and interviews and all kinds of things. And we have a couple of guests that are going to come on next week to talk about this topic.
Okay.
And, but it was super funny.
Well, hold on. First of all, Jim, what do you mean there's always been an enemy like that? What do you mean?
not an enemy, but an entity. I mean, I mean the one that kind of began the whole shebang here in Michigan was the Michigan Responsibility Council. And you guys remember them? And from there, there's always been kind of that other side, and it goes from one organization to another, but they've always played that same role of the folks that really want to help control the industry in a major way, and they do that by starting to eliminate competition. And we know for a fact that they view the caregivers as competition.
Well, I got an idea for them, so it's not so contentious. Why don't these growing companies now go out and pay a visit to each one of these caregivers and offer them a job making big money?
Well, the thing
marijuana
is that
instead
some
of
of
just
these
trying to go
caregivers-
after them in a vicious way. Isn't there a better
some of
way?
these caregivers have tried to transition into these licensed, you know, like different places or whatnot, but the pay is laughable.
Is it really?
The pay is like a big joke. It's like, are you serious? Because we all know at this point what the plants are worth. I mean, come on. You know, and they're going to offer them like $12 an hour or something like that. It's for an experienced grower. I mean, these are folks that know what they're doing and are going to prevent.
Well, you got to
things
pay them
from
good.
happening, like the freaking spider mites on your plants. Like it was, you know, so bad that it had been there for so long. It was like an entire web, you know.
They thought they were
you know,
putting a
that
nice
was-
frosty butt on the ad.
No, it was a spider web. Whoops.
So we didn't tie the whole thing together, but the point was that this antagonist has become the enemy. You know, manufacturing cannabis organization had all their social media pictures at their website had spider mites, and they weren't aware of it. Now, there's a story that they may have been hacked. Jim, do you know anything about this? Were they
Oh,
hacked?
you think they were hacked and someone just placed those there to make them look bad? Like that seems pretty elaborate. I mean,
That's a lot of energy for that.
You have to have some short-term memory to pull that off.
that's right.
I think they even took down their social media for a little bit
They
and
did.
then replaced the pictures with stock photos,
Oh,
such as this Zoomaloom.
that's
nice
probably
bud
better.
right
Let someone
there.
else do the art. It's probably a wise move. And
Boy, I
the big
wish I was sitting in something like this. It would smell so good.
the big story, of course, is Shelley Edgerton has now taken on a role with the MCMA, and I don't remember exactly what. Let's look it up here. I'll have to look, but I know
Shelley, of course, was the one of the. She was the executive director of the Lara. Or no, of the marijuana. What was it, Lara?
I think she was Laura.
Yeah.
She was,
Yeah,
something
she was
the head of Lara.
about
She's the
in
executive, right.
medical
In Laura.
marijuana or something, right?
Yeah, she
She-
had
let me
something to
think.
do with the program.
Did she was in a position to grant or deny some of the conditions that we had added, and I think she just granted them. I mean, you know
She
what I mean?
did. I mean,
Who was the guy that denied the one before? What was that guy's name? Michael something? What was his name?
Atwater.
No,
I don't
that's not him.
remember.
Do you remember though? It was he
Yeah, I
denied
remember being
after the
very-
autism
very-
passed.
Yeah, I remember.
What was his name? Michael. It's me, not Michael. I don't know. But
I was very upset.
She's the former director
yeah,
of
Laura.
the Laura. Yeah.
And she took
I
a
don't
job
know
as a
the Michael
lawyer
guy,
at the at Honigman Miller, I think, at a bad
Mm-hmm.
firm, or Miller Canfield, and then is doing this now. So
Versatile.
there's a lot to talk about. So we want to wait till our guest gets on. There's a couple other things that were pressing, I thought.
Chair. That's what she is. She's the chair of the Cannabis Manufacturers Association, the Michigan Cannabis Manufacturers Association.
Is
Excuse
that
me.
a paid gig? you
Elected
think?
board chair.
Is that a private entity?
It. I
Like
believe
a trade union?
it is. It's definitely not a state.
It's not a state.
No, it's like it's a trade, like an industry association.
Do they have a position on the continuance of marijuana as a Schedule I controlled substance?
I don't believe that they've communicated one. No.
They should be asked for their opinion.
They're too worried about what the caregivers are doing.
Well, they ought to be worried about whether or not they're commercializing a Schedule I controlled substance.
Yeah.
Well, I
You're
guess
right.
they did a couple of appearances, and because of some of the backlash, a few of the folks have stepped out of the MCMA. Has kind of like decided not to participate anymore. And then there's a couple still on the fence, and then there's a couple that refuse to appear on any social media, podcasts or interviews or anything like that. So they definitely know how to stir it up, and if nothing else, they pissed off a lot of people, and that's really not a good thing. If they want people to spend money at their establishments and get in with the folks who are that are purchasing the cannabis, then their best bet is not to piss them off. But apparently they didn't catch that memo.
Well, there's a handful of things I didn't catch. This person who's director of LARA, who's in charge of the enforcement of marijuana programs, is the one that denied our lawsuit and fought it to have the pharmacy board remove marijuana from Schedule I or from the schedule altogether. And so now she's headed chairperson of this group of industry interests. I'd like to know what this industry has to say about the continued listing of marijuana on Schedule I or II or any schedule of the Michigan Controlled Substances Act.
Here's always a fun topic that I can't help but to resist, because I do think one of the things that was overlooked in the pandemic involving the COVID virus is this disease that keeps spreading. It's called black robe disease. And I found this article
It's a pandemic.
recent that says
Long term.
some things that
Contagious.
I should not have said that. Are there cameras in here? What judges said that got them in trouble? Good topic, right? So this is from the Judicial Conduct Report of the National Center for State Courts Center for Judicial Ethics reviews judicial disciplines and removal cases each year. The report said that there were approximately 127 public state judicial discipline proceedings in 2020. Approximately one-third of the sanctions were entered pursuant to a judge's agreement. 11 judges were removed from office in 2020. 5 former judges were barred from serving in office again. 13 judges and former judges resigned or retired in lieu of discipline. Here are some of the questionable comments and actions that judges that got them in trouble in 2020. Comment about litigants. And when I say communication, I don't mean and then the bitch done this and done that. Judge affectionating on Ebonics accent and dialect to a couple during a custody dispute. Pennsylvania court discipline removed him. The next one is I'm going to throw you out and put you in handcuffs in about 30 seconds, all right? So you can either get out or get thrown out. And if I have to look at another outrageous expression from you, clear? Because if I have to take again, I'm just going to ask the officer to put you in handcuffs and then you'll experience the Sullivan County Jail. A judge in a custody and visitation matter to a party's mother sitting in the back of a courtroom. He's removed from office in that regard. You know, sounds like she was using meth and she's a meth head. Judge referring to a victim of domestic violence. Bennett, California. Censure for this and other misconduct. Comments to and about criminal defendants. Frankly, it would be my desire to sentence you to life without parole because you really have demonstrated you have no desire or intention to ever be a productive member of society, to ever be a parent, to ever have anything that resembles a mother. You merely gave birth to children, but then you emotionally abandoned them. Here's one from Washington. I think you're a fucking addict and maybe you need treatment. I don't think it's got nothing to do with anger management. I think I give you anger management that's going to get you clean and sober. What the hell are you talking about? Have a seat over there. Percocet and alcohol. I'm going to relax a little bit and then figure out what to do with you.
Wow.
Then you can just leave. I'm going to order a bench warrant for your arrest when you do. Judge to a defendant before ordering his arrest for contempt of court. And here's our favorite, not finally, comments to her about women. On a lighter note, I take judicial notice that women can drive you crazy. And you know a judge could get in trouble for something like this. Judge, while presiding over a domestic violence case, inquiry concerning decision and order. And I don't care what anybody wears, Miss McKeegan. If you wear yoga pants to court, it's okay with me. And, I should not have said that. Are there cameras in here? Judge to district attorney in a matter of Gerber, determination of admonishment and for this and other conduct. The judge said to the chief clerk after a potluck lunch that if he knew she could also cook, he would have gone for her. Once when she apologized for fanning herself because she was having a hot flash, he told her, it's nice to know he still has that effect on her. One day as he was walking by her office, the judge remarked to her, you look really hot in that outfit. You should always wear those outfits. Here's some comments about attorneys.
That's when the throat punch comes.
Throat
Boom.
punch. There you go.
Throat punch.
Throat punch.
It's worth taking the hit.
If you're going to do a throat
the
punch,
heat
though,
for
just
it.
make sure the video's rolling. I mean, it's no fun if you can't replay it.
I could, yeah, YouTube that shit.
That's right.
I'll YouTube it.
Well, here's the same judge from Pennsylvania, in Tranquil, Pennsylvania. There seems to be a pattern here.
Like a twofer?
Yeah. You were out of strikes when he decided to put Aunt Jemima on the jury, and he knew darn well that when she goes home to her baby's daddy, she's probably going to be slinging heroin, too.
Wow.
This is Judge Tranquil. Doesn't sound too tranquil.
No.
The level of service is far below what the citizens of the community expect and deserve. The judge in an email to district attorney about handling a criminal case. Again, this is California. I'm not sure I want to shake your hand. And do you know how much trouble you have caused me? Do you know how much money I've had to pay lawyers because of you? Judge to attorney, he believes that complained about him to the Commission on Judicial Performance. All right, so that's enough. But it's a running rampant problem.
Anyway, so.
Running rampant problem.
We're laughing because it's so outrageous, but it is outrageous that these judges are allowed to do
You know,
this.
Michael, it's not too far different from what we experienced in Dearborn Heights several months ago.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why we did what we did in that matter. Because it was just unacceptable. I don't know if it was as bad as these things, but it wasn't too far off.
It's a lot of that stuff. It's
Yeah. I was talking to Jeff about it yesterday, about how judges have come in this age to think that everybody wants to know their opinion about something. And the only thing we want their opinion on is the law.
right.
Because what makes them a better person than us or because they've been to law school and they're judges. No,
No.
that just tells us they're an expert or an alleged expert in the law. That's the only thing we want to hear about. Apply the law. We don't care about your personal opinion. And as an officer, I'd sit there in court and listen to the judge tell his, how he personally feels about this, that, and the other thing to defendants when he's sentencing them or talking about bond or whatever. I mean, to the point it was ridiculous. And that was 25 years ago.
Well, it was broken then, and it's still broken now.
Here.
And
that we got to go to a
all
break.
right, fine. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Planet Green Trees, 520.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strains, products, and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Hello, this is John D. Lamb from Planet Green Trees TV. Congratulations, Hash Bash, on your 50th annual. This goes out to all your dads out there who ever got in trouble for smoking pot. Your smile is legal now, don't frown. Show some teeth, don't look so down. Hold your head up high, have a ball. You weren't so bad after all. Your smile is illegal now, don't cry. Let me be that twinkle in your eye. You paid the price, took a fall, but you weren't so bad after all. Busted in your high school parking lot, busted in your college dorm. Then you trusted a narc and you got popped on the day your son was born. Misdemeanors, felonies and fines, paranoia, probation times. They watching you pee in the lavatory, a gallon of clean tea. Naturally, you had a record the year you had me. Your smile is legal now, so get high. Might do you some good, give it a try. Your smile is legal, wake and bake. Your smile is legal, have some cake. Happy birthday, Dad, I just had to call. You weren't so bad after all.
double shift in the heart of the city. Sun's going down. I'm about to get ready to close my eyes. Get some rest and dream of a life that's better than this. Pull the shades close and turn off the light. Climb into bed and the rest of my life fades away oh so fast. The next thing you know, I'm gone in a flash. A big blue world that was full of fire. I was soaring through the air in my radio flyer. That's when I saw you standing in the sunlight. Yeah, the fire in your eyes was so surreal. Somehow I thought it could all be real. Wishing that this moment in my life would last forever. Every night I dream so we could be together. My alarm went off and the sun came up, and I was back to work and just my luck. Breaking my back just to stay afloat. I can't stay awake, I need an antidote to keep my fears and my blues away. Well, it's getting heavy at the end of the day. I bust out the door, down the road. Yeah, to finish what I started. No, we're telling where it might go. Out of a big blue world that was full of fire. I was soaring through the air in my radio flyer. That's when I saw you standing in the sunlight. Yeah, the fire in your eyes was so surreal. Somehow I thought it could all be real. Wishing that this moment in my life would last forever. And every night I dream so we could be together. And every night I dream so we could be together. Too long, though my feelings now for you are strong. You take my hand, all we leave the ground, we're flying. A big blue world that was full of fire. I was soaring through the air in my radio flyer. That's when I saw you standing in the sunlight. Yeah, the fire in your eyes was so surreal. Somehow I thought it could all be real. Wishing that this moment in my life would last forever. Oh, and every night I dream so we could be together. Oh, and every night I dream so we could be together. Yeah, and every night I dream so we could be together. Yes, I do. Oh, I dream of you. Nuts together.
Now back to more Planet Green Trees.
Alrighty, we are back. Thanks for staying with us. You're officially listening to Planet Green Trees, episode 520.
Boom.
And we are happy to announce, joining us right now is our guest tonight, Detroit attorney, longtime friend, and someone that finds himself in the news quite a bit. There's probably too many headlines to cover all of them or mention them all, but this last one caught my attention, and I'm very glad to have him on the show. He agreed to show up here and talk to us. Please welcome my dear friend Todd Perkins. Welcome, Todd.
Hey, how are you? You say a Detroit lawyer. So are you.
I know I am.
Out there, you know what I'm saying? You're a Detroit lawyer. You can't escape us. You know, you're in our embrace.
I told you today I was in front of I was at a Zoom hearing for 3 hours this afternoon. It was yes. I grew up practicing law, went to law school, and all of my experiences that shaped me as a lawyer really arose and came out of and it really is a great place to practice law at the end of the day. And I say that because now I've practiced in other parts of the state, and there's no place like there, I could say.
But it's a great training ground. You know, I learned from, remember Lester Hudson? Well, he's still around. I don't mean to put him in memoriam, but no. Lester Hudson told me when I was in law school, he says, you may want to go to New York. You may want to, because I went to East Coast school, and he says, you may want to go back there. He says, but you stay here for 5 years. He says, you practice here for 5 years, you can practice anywhere in the world.
I agree. That's true. And with the volume of cases, there's always like the top ranking in efficiency and handling matters. But I always was amazed by the ease by which the court would give you your trial. Like, you don't get that in other places. There's always a resistance. They wear you down. It's like, okay, get them in there, get the 12 in there, let's go, let's pick a jury, let's go. Bring the next one in, we're ready for that. And you need that as a young lawyer, get that experience, get your, chops and whatnot. But Todd, I know you practice all over in federal court. You practice in other states, and go where they need you, as they say.
Yeah. Have case will travel.
That's right. But and I know you're also, as it happens sometimes, lawyers become activists on various topics.
Yeah.
I think and there's multiple issues that are rising out of the law. If that's not the place where it arises, or it's in society, and as a lawyer you can identify it and address it. I think. It's interesting, and you may, before we get to the specific topics, there's one that I constantly talk about all the time, and I feel like all lawyers that have been complaining about how broken the system seems to be, how it's just like an institution that just keeps gobbling up people and doesn't produce any good, and it's drain on people, and it's overcrowding the prison systems and whatnot, and then there was 2 reports that were produced. One, the Trial Court Funding Commission, that found that the system is broken because all the district courts' funds needed to pay their budget come from the litigants, and this is an unfair system to be in. And then, of course, the governor's report last year about the overcrowding, jail overcrowding, which brought about a lot of the reforms that we're seeing now, or quote-unquote so-called reformist movement in criminal justice, such as the, release instead of arresting and giving tickets, and some of the expungement law that came about. All of that has kind of been a product of that, talking about that. But it arose out of the reality that the system has got some breaks in it. Do you feel that way about the criminal justice system, or do you think it's? Do you think it serves any kind of?
Absolutely broken.
Yeah.
Absolutely broken. You know it, and we're trying not to sound so jaundiced by it. I mean, the reality is it is broken. The real sad part about it is this. You've always had, from our perspective, being defense lawyers doing, as we call, God's work, we always have this push and understanding of the brokenness of the system, if we use the word brokenness. But then, and the push towards sort of a humanitarian way, a more humanitarian way to punish and things of that nature. Because what happens is locking these people up, not giving them bonds, they're essentially getting their quart of blood or their pint of blood even before the hammer slams. What if they're found not guilty and they've given up all this time because they couldn't afford a bond? So you have that push that we've always screamed and yelled about lowering bonds, giving reasonable bonds and things like that so that people can be out and fight their cases, because it's much easier for lawyers to have clients come to their office. It really is a mechanism by which you almost are denying a person to have more, I won't say effective representation, because I'm not saying you can't effectively represent your client who's locked up, but it's more effective for the relationship, for everything, when the person's coming to your office instead of you going to them. And so you got that push going on, but then you have these budgetary concerns that meet and they crescendo, and now out of it you have this sort of understanding that it's wrong now, we should do it a different way. But these people over here on the other side, and I don't know how far foot I can go, a lot of them, I'll just say, you can excerpt it, they're dog shit to me, you know what I mean? Because, it's just like, it's really the budgetary concerns and the economies in place that cause them to come to our position. And then, but, out of it, you have good things that come out of it. It was as bad and horrific as COVID is in this country. It also was one of the things that caused them to come to this realization, we can't lock these people up. It's just like killing them, so now we're on this process and this movement, that we have new thoughts and ideas, new thoughts for the mainstream, but they've always been thoughts for activists, and there's always been thoughts for, because like you said, you're well within your bandwidth of activism yourself. And so how it is to be on the other side of what's in vogue, and to do things. But, I believe that you have to be contrarian sometimes in order to get to the point of people understanding that, yeah, my point may seem contrary, but it's just the right thing, and I'm not saying that we know it all, but you just know what's right and what's wrong. And we've known for years, some of the stuff that we've seen in the court is just wrong. And we do our best to fight it. And sometimes, how you go to bed unsettled because it almost feels like I didn't fight hard enough. And it just, but what I've learned is, as long as I feel unsettled, I know I'm still fighting.
That's right.
To the point where I'm feeling complacent, then, maybe, just take me out to the pasture and.
In other words, the life of a criminal defense lawyer will be one that will always be unsettled. There will never be a peaceful, laying the head down on your pillow. It's just always going to be. No, I hear you. There's always more work to be done, unfortunately, especially when you're doing God's work. You brought up something.
Plaintiff side, they're taking away. Look what. I hate the fact that I started practicing in '96 and tort reform in '98. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't even get a taste of that.
Right. You hear the stories of the insurance company, let's settle our cases, here's 10, blah, blah, in the old days before all the tort reform. But listen, you brought up a really important point I wanted to mention. What did COVID teach us about the criminal justice system? I always took away these two points I thought have just fallen to the wayside as the court gets back to quote-unquote normal. The first one is, we learned of what a essential business is, and we found out that our economy, 60% of our economy is unessential businesses. They just shut them down, and we're supposed to be okay. There's unessential cases, right? Because all of a sudden, all these folks that the courts were had their teeth in, report here, drug test here, show up to court here, be here on time. Oh, you're not here on time, we're issuing a capias, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, we'll come back, we'll call you when we need you. It's unessential, come back later. And then it just means all that shit and all that crap was for nothing and meaningless. The other thing, go ahead. What about that?
Have you heard that they're starting to come back to that position, and they're pressing these district court judges, and I don't know how many, I don't do as much criminal work as I was, but there are other members in my firm who do mostly criminal work, and I look at some of the dates, they're pressing these dates again because the state court administrators coming back in now that COVID's, I don't think COVID is ever going to leave us, but at least the imprimatur of the negative effect of COVID is leaving us.
But you're right. We had this drive driven by the court administrator's office, which, counsel, your case is getting old. What does that have to do with anything, right? Unless the defendant's complaining about it because he's in custody. But, and all of a sudden that stopped for a little bit. But you're right. They're getting back to that. And this is the control of the courts, the way that they're able to, gave them something to complain about that has nothing to do about the case or reason to push the case along. The other thing, which I just want to get your thoughts on, is the COVID taught us we had a national display of displeasure the way that people, with the way that the police community has been engaging with its citizens, and that's a very neutral way to say it, right? But there's been a lot of talk about doing something. We've had one end of it defund the police, one end there's reform the police, and then, but fuck the police is the other one. But
okay, now I know where I can go.
That's right. Oh yeah, don't hold back. This is this is a free speech network. What's happened? Like it all happens. A lot of attention. Like I don't know what's happening. And I would just, my only thing is, and I'm curious to hear what your thought is as a solution, because in order to pass any legislation, there's got to be some kind of meeting of some minds that appeals to at least more than 51% of the federal government. But my issue, and you know this because you do civil rights law, the qualified immunity. If you lift the qualified immunity and the cops have to, and the administration of the policing has to write a check, or it's easier to get to them, right? Then the hiring, training, and activity surrounding the police it must improve. It's going to come from within. You can't force a institution to change just by telling them to. You have to make them accountable. And the first check
Absolutely.
you know what I'm saying? But give me your thoughts on that. I know this is
this is real. Yeah, you really jumped in.
I'm sorry.
Right quick.
I'm
this
sorry.
Is great. No, this is where we need to be. So my position is, one, I have a different belief about how policing in America is done. I relate back to the slavery times when they created police. And the way that the police act now is the same way that they acted, they had police to chase and hunt slaves. That's the same kind of mentality that they have now. And I mean, they're equal opportunity for most part chasers and arresters. But I think that there's still a certain sort of, heavy-handedness with African Americans. There just is. I believe that. And this country is, it's the death knell of this country until we get that issue right. But, I don't go so far as to defund the police. That's ridiculous. What are we going to do? Because there are some people that we've run across. I think about Richard Pryor. He said one time, he says, well, they asked this guy, he says, why'd you kill all those people in the house? And he says, because they were home. And Richard Pryor turns around and says, thank God for penitentiaries. There are penitentiaries for some people. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think about getting rid of the qualified immunity. What I want to get rid of is judges being so, their application and determination of what qualified immunity is and what gross negligence is should be more allowed to be expanded upon, because a lot of times they'll say, oh, that's not grossly negligent. The fact that they ran through a red light, didn't have their lights on because they're in hot pursuit. They're doing something that's, God's work or something like that. No, you owe a duty to people to turn on your lights, like with Cliff Woodard dying. When he died in that car accident, he comes home, Cliff Woodard went on vacation. Just for your audience, Cliff Woodard's a lawyer that's practiced with us for some years. And he goes on vacation, down to the, he's on the islands. I knew that because I recognized one of his partners was doing his cases early that week on Zoom. And he comes back the day of the Super Bowl, goes to the Super Bowl party. He's not drinking, has no alcohol in his system. He's sitting at a stop sign or a street light, and a car running, chasing somebody that they didn't need to chase, because they have this rule that they're not going to do high-speed chases anymore, and they kill them. So that's that's your police right there. At the same time, there are a lot of good police officers out there, but that qualified immunity, I still think they deserve some form of qualified immunity. I just think that there needs to be some codified mechanism or some objectivity to what qualified immunity is, because qualified immunity to certain judges is not going to be qualified immunity to others. You know, just think, I can see qualified immunity not going as far with a judge like, you know, Judge Hood over in federal court versus, or you know, or even Judge Parker in federal court versus someone like Cleveland. You know, they're on opposite ends politically or just internally. That's just how they are. You know what I'm saying? And so there needs to be some kind of standard to what we know what qualified immunity is. So, you know, and you know, because if you lose and you're not able to sue, you know how hard it is to appeal that decision. There has to be an abuse of discretion. And it's hard to find an abuse of discretion if a judge is sophisticated enough to make the record and to put the right words into their order and into their decision making to almost make it unappealable. So, you know, that's what I think. I do think that because of the work that police do, it's dangerous work a lot of times. That, you know, I have to, as much as I understand people saying, get rid of qualified immunity, defund the police, I understand because, you know, if my relatives and, you know, I've known people who've been injured, definitely people who've been injured a lot, who've been falsely arrested. How many clients do we have? How many lawsuits do I do? You know, I have more lawsuits now on 1983 claims than I ever had in my entire career. I don't know if that's a sign of the fact that I'm just doing more cases that involve abuses by police, or it's a couple of things that happened in Detroit though. In Detroit, when we had the bankruptcy in 2013 or 2014, you know, those cops, they got screwed on their pensions and a lot of them retired. So you have all this talent and vacuum of talent leaving. So then you have the kids training kids, you know, and I don't know if you've seen a lot of these, you know, CCW cases. You've got these guys in a car, plainclothes police officers who are only been on the force 2 or 3 years. You remember back when we started, you know, you had to be out there 8, 9 years before you got a chance to do plainclothes work. Right. And, you know, these guys, the superior officer in some of these cars, I have 3 lawsuits against them on 3 different issues. And for one guy, we've had 3 cases with the same officers in which we've got motions to suppress, and the prosecutor did not appeal them, which we got granted. So, I mean, those cases are worth a lot of money because those are some serious violation rights. Because they don't, some of them, you know, you talk to them, they sound like decent people. They just don't know what they're doing, some of them are malicious. But a lot of them just don't know because there's a lack of training. And then I think that the command, you know, I represent an officer. It was a news story about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I had an officer who told Channel 4, they didn't show his face, but he told Channel 4, there's a referendum, there's a directive within, it's an unspoken directive within the command of the Detroit Police Department, particularly in his precinct, to arrest everyone in a car in which they find a weapon. Everyone, regardless of that. And so he goes on the air and saying that the news catches up the Deputy Chief or Assistant Chief Bedison, and Bedison doesn't know what to do. And he says, no, that's not happening. But why, when I go to the precinct the next day, there's a notice on every window saying, you know, written by Grant Ha, you know, who's the lawyer for the police department, and Commander Bedison or Assistant Chief Bedison, talking about don't arrest people in these cars and things of that nature. And when they were trying to transfer my client down from the detective bureau down to some data processing unit, now they've left him alone. You know, he's back in, you know. So, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, we see going on, abuses that we see going on that, you know, that makes sense. And it makes sense why people say, let's defund the police. You know, but at the end of the day, I don't think that that's the answer as much in the cause and in the movement that I consider myself to be. I also have to keep a level head about it. Because, you know, if you defund the police, then what you got?
No, I agreed. I would even forward that and say things like they should be, I don't know, better paid, even like, you know, better benefits, you know, because you
Absolutely.
want better employed personnel in that situation. Right. The example that keeps coming to mind, it's such a tragedy that the woman that pulled the gun instead of the taser and shot that kid pulling away or whatever, like that, like it goes without saying that should never happen. She's a 26-year veteran. There's something wrong with that fact. Either she's got professional burnout or she was never qualified. Like that should never happen. And it goes to the.
Or she could just be lying.
That's true. Well, I'm saying that's the right. But I'm saying there is no excuse. Whatever, maybe she could really be a violent, intentional person, but whatever their back out is, it's not an acceptable back out because it means that she's not qualified. They didn't train her right. She's too tired, or she should have never been hired in the first place. And I'm saying,
who mistakes a Glock?
There's nothing. There's no way that whatever they say there could ever be. And I'm saying, how do you stop that from happening? You got to pay these people. Like, she probably, how did she get hired? What were the circumstances?
Also, as I recall, and I haven't kept up with that. That's Mr. Wright, the decedent in that case. She had, I think, a similar instance. Didn't shoot someone, but I think had pulled her weapon, or she had some discipline in her file relative to her. Those are things that I think there were some indicators before this behavior happened. And at the end of the day, let's talk about this. Okay, we get to the point that she make a mistake and pull the wrong weapon instead of her taser. But you never should have been messing with this kid on some tickets like that in the first place.
Right.
That's
exactly.
what the problem is. Yep. And that over-policing, that overreaching that they've been doing for so many years, that's what the problem is.
Exactly.
All right. I agree. This is you've perfectly laid out the segue to the next topic and my favorite topic, which is cannabis. Because, this that we're talking about, and your reference to how the policing is taking place, like during slavery, the era that created the Controlled Substance Act and the criminalizing of marijuana and the unleashing of the police as a military to raid homes, break up meetings, vilify groups, and drag them in for the news, as was the intention during the 1970 election, as Richard Nixon's chief of staff has said after the aftermath. But it created this justification for law enforcement to selectively pick and choose and attack and arrest and investigate and hop over the Fourth Amendment, and we have this development of, a loss of liberty based on these principles of the biggest lie, that cannabis is dangerous. And before Nixon, of course, created this Controlled Substance Act with the intention of going after his political opponents, which were the civil rights activists, the Vietnam protesters, and Jewish psychiatrists. He did this to go after them. He did this to empower his silent majority. And it was done at a time when he was his own selected group of individuals. The Schaefer Commission had reported to him that cannabis isn't dangerous. You should not criminalize it, and it's less dangerous than alcohol and tobacco. And he said, "Didn't you get the memo? These are my enemies, the people that are using it. I want to lock them up." And I need a reason. So he threw out the Schaefer report, created the Controlled Substances Act, and it has been disproportionately applied to communities of color, obviously, and results in an overcrowding of jail, and it has ripped apart community generation after generation after generation to the point of just disaster. The war on drugs has been the biggest failure
biggest lie,
biggest failure of policy. And to me, it explains a lot of the division in our country. If you look back, people are fighting, there's a lot of issues that separate us and create this division. But it's always been there, and it's based on this. But the war on drugs, the war on humans, when it was unleashed, created this us and them, the military and the neighborhoods, and it broke away from neighborhood policing and created this us and them, and this complex of a industrial, criminal justice system that's designed for ripping apart and financing local governments, and it's a tragedy. And
I look at it like this: one, what Nixon was doing was nothing more than a continuation of what the mainstream America has done really to African American households, which is even in slavery, they wanted to always destroy the family. So he found a way to do it by quoting, he created this boogeyman of drugs. Yes. There's an interesting segment, and I hope that you've seen this. And it's actually, because Seth MacFarlane, as hilarious as he is, his cutaways and his stories do find they're founded in fact, even though he places a lot of humor on it. And there was an episode about cannabis and about marijuana, making it legal. And, Brian the dog, he's a person that goes both ways, like right. Liberal, whoever the girl is of his affection, he's going to go in that particular direction. And he has a cutaway, or not even a cutaway, but, it's a musical rendition that he's talking about marijuana, how, regardless of whether hemp is the strongest rope that you can possibly make, the most durable type of clothing that you can make out of it. I mean, they made it illegal, for their own purposes, that the wood barons initially wanted to make it illegal. Then Nixon took it further, and then he bastardized even that, an already bastardized statute, and made it the war on drugs, which was really the opportunity to go after African Americans, his enemies, which culminated in him getting out of office because he just lost and ran. The good part about it is these pendulums with these crazy people that we as Americans, because we don't vote a lot of times from an intelligent perspective, we vote with an impetuousness that we vote with. But fortunately, we let things, the way that the government is, the way that our government's set up, I still believe in it. As much as I'm critical of it, I still believe in it. And it just takes time. Look how long it took to get to the point where, look how many African Americans, and just people in general, but mostly what we've seen, and particularly in Southeast Michigan, is African Americans that have gone to prison for marijuana, and now it's fucking legal. You know what I'm saying? I just can't think about it. I had a client who was a major distributor of marijuana, and I'm having a meeting with some clients who are putting together this is about a year or two ago, having a meeting with some clients, and and I was talking to him. He had done a lot of time for a lot of marijuana, and he's just like, man, it really kind of bugs me that I'm really the pioneer. I'm one of the pioneers of what they're taking advantage of. And because I've got a felony record now, I can't take advantage of it, and yet I know the business better than anyone. And, it's just, I just think it's so unfair. And, these policies and these laws that we have in this country, just look at immigration, just jumping out, analogizing that. Look what happened with immigration over the past 4 years with Trump. It just, it allows these people, from an individual perspective to reach into the recesses of people's negative hearts, and they can go run amok. Fortunately, that pendulum swings so far that it's got to come whipsaw back. And I think this is the whipsaw back. We got to keep the whipsaw going and chop them all down. And then, but we also have to be and temper what we do too, from our perspective.
That's true. And I think it's an important point that the temperament of any movement here, it's got to recognize that you're dealing with an antagonist on the other side, someone that's generally, we're so divisive now. There does need to be some olive branching. You know what I mean? You got to find the like-minded issues that you can't connect on.
But some of these motherfuckers.
Oh yeah.
Some of them is just.
Oh yeah. But on both sides, arguably. I mean, the extremes have got, and I'm not. Listen, I enjoy a non-affiliation position to a certain degree because then I can criticize everybody. I'd rather do that and you know what? I have a more difficult time championing for anybody because they're all failures. Like every single one of them is a politician. Government is gridlock at its best. And everyone that says they're going to do something as a politician never lives up to what they say they're going to do ever, and it happens time and time. The only one that's ever really been, I mean, there's probably more, but I mean, it's just, but in the era that we're talking about, the reformists and people that are, it became popular to be pro-cannabis, for some electorates. Some people rode this mantra of tax and regulate, elect me. That's popular. And we get tax money. Oh, all I got to do is say I like cannabis, vote for me. People are getting into office for this. And they get into office and they're like, you know, and then tax and regulate becomes another form of prohibition. Oh, you don't have a ticket to get in this club. Right. So, you know what I mean? So you can't do that. I mean, you know what I mean? And what is that? What that's like more prohibition. That's more war on drugs. You know,
my mom said when I was a kid, she said, she used to tell us, she says, don't get mixed up with that marijuana because you're going to look like a fool. I say, why? She says, because it's going to be legal one day. They just haven't learned how to tax it. And that's what she said. She said that, I'm 51 today. She said that I must have been 8 or 9 years old. You know what I'm saying? And she used to, you know, she saw it as it was. And, you know, but as it relates to honesty in politicians, I know a lot of people are not going to like this because I think he is dog shit. He's probably the worst president we ever had. But that motherfucker Trump was probably one of the most honest people. He said he was going to fuck us. He told us that he was going to do that. And he did everything he said he was going to do and more. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this guy went out and he said it. You know, other than shooting somebody in the head in the middle of Fifth Avenue. That's all he didn't do. Rather than that, he did everything. And, you know, you can't use the word honest because there's nothing honest about him. But he was true to his word. You know, he was. You know, I mean, damn.
It's a phenomena that I still don't, you know, it's hard. It was too much. You know, at the end of the day, it was like too much. It was such a, you know, I don't know. I mean, at first it was funny that it was like, I can't believe this is going on. And then it was just, I don't know. It's nice that.
You know, the problem with Americans, though, that would reelect them, you know what they look at? They look at their balance sheets. And it's that false sense of security that they get because their stock portfolio has gone up. I'm just bracing for the crash. Like I told you, I'm a contrarian. You know what I'm saying? So I invest on the downswing. You know what I mean? And it's coming because it's a falsehood that why is the Dow at 34,000? There's no greater sense of value in that Dow than it was, 10 years ago. But yet we're double where it was. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So when things don't make sense, the way the world works, and if it's a true free market system, it's going to correct itself. And when it corrects itself, it is hell to pay. I mean, we've seen it happen in smaller fashions, even though people thought it was a calamity then in 2007, 2008. I'm ready for it. If you're a contrarian, get on board.
There'll
be a lot of marijuana sales then.
Right. No, I hear you. All right. So let's I want to ask some. You alluded to it in your reference to your mother's advice about this. Tell me, what were your experiences growing up with other people that now as lawyers, as it relates to cannabis, marijuana, and its acceptability in the community in those years, if you will, if that question makes any sense.
It's always been acceptable where I'm from.
Right.
It's always been, I found it from the neighborhood. I grew up in the north end of Detroit. So that's like over by where the Northern High School used to be, and still own my house that I grew up in. And ultimately, when my kids leave to go to college, I'm going to move back and I'm going to deck that house out and I'm going to move back to the hood. Now, my wife might stay out here in the suburbs and she'll come by and maybe I'll come visit her on the weekends or something like that. But it's always been, it's been acceptable, but people recognize I can go to jail for this. So there's always just like, I can equate it to almost like wanting to have an interracial relationship in the 30s in America. You know what I'm saying? Once somebody's going to jail, you know what I mean? So, but it's kind of like that idea that I want to enjoy this. It's not, I totally, my personal belief, and I don't smoke marijuana, but my personal belief is that it's healthier than tobacco, is healthier than alcohol, and don't get me wrong. You can hurt yourself with marijuana if you just sit there and you're catatonic all day, but sure. At the end of the day, I think it has medicinal purposes. It has it's from the ground. I mean, right. It's one of the, it's not like tobacco where tobacco, we finally found out we finally found out, I mean, not finally, they finally revealed it, that what they were doing to tobacco to make it even more addictive, and don't get me wrong, there's some grow processes with marijuana that, they make it a higher potency of THC and things of that nature, but it's not like they're advertising that. They're telling their patrons,
sure,
this is what this is. So
right.
There's an honesty with marijuana.
Sure.
So, and then, I go from the neighborhood, then I went to school, I went to Dartmouth College. So, there was marijuana smoking there. So it was more of a sense of, it was accepted there from the perspective of I'm going to be unbridled in my thought. I'm going to do what I want because I'm not hurting myself. I'm still getting a 3.6 and I'm smoking marijuana. So, what am I hurting? I'm not hurting anybody. So there was that sense of rebelliousness that took place on a college campus versus where in the neighborhood, it was just, I want to enjoy it, but we got to do it over in these quarters or in these cars and different things like that. But what happened was when you would do it in the cars, it propounded itself on the opportunity for police not only to pull you out of your car, to investigate what's in your car, to now take your money, so it had so many more dramatic and drastic consequences for the people from the neighborhood versus the college kids.
100%. And that's what I was really getting at. I feel like, a lot of the fellow lawyers, judges that we encounter every day in the Wayne County, Detroit system, I probably agree with 99% of the things politically with them. Mm-hmm. I'm talking like a leadership level. There's, that have had absolutely, I feel like, no experiences with cannabis and avoided it at all costs because they knew if they were even close to it, it would result in a very, very negative police encounter that would potentially ruin their career goals and whatnot. And I think that's kind of what your mom kind of said.
Let me fix what I was saying, though.
Yes.
No. I might have misspoken. I don't smoke marijuana today, and I haven't smoked in about maybe 15 or 20 years. And only just because I love it. Oh. I just think about, I have clients now.
They bring you samples. I bet, right?
But no, I don't smoke it. But
I know.
I love the smell. The smell is the odor is just intoxicating, man. I mean, it's not like that brick package Mexican that was going around when I was a kid, that I suffered under, So no, I did smoke, but I and I told my wife, I said, listen, I've got about 10 more years of litigating, and because I just don't have. What happens is when you smoking takes up time. I don't have time. I've got 2 kids. I work about 70 hours a week, and I've worked. My practice has grown probably 75%. Let alone hiring new people is still growing. But so I don't have time, and I just in my first marriage, with my first wife, we grew up together before we even got married, smoking, and then by the time I became a lawyer, when I was a couple years after being a lawyer, I recognized I just didn't have the time, and I stopped. She continued on. I became her bag man.
Right.
So just because I didn't want to have her go out and whatever.
Right. Sure.
Plus, I knew the best guys who had the best stuff.
Of course.
So, but no, I can't wait until. So it might be about. I'm 51 now. It might be about 60, and I'm going back. I'm just gonna have to moderate what I do. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go get the best stuff. I mean, I don't know the young lady who's sitting there, but I mean, I sit there and I look and my mouth is watering. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she's great to look at, but I mean, even beyond her, I mean, it's just a great picture.
Well, look at that. If you think all this looks good, look at that one right there. And if you were in a room like this, the smell would just...
You know something? The only problem with that one is, it's not dry enough yet. It's just not dry enough. I needed...
We call that unusable material.
Right. Yeah, and we have to do things like that just to, to move and maneuver in this. It's just like the seed to sale thing. They've got their hooks in us already, Oh yeah. That's what my mom said. Yep. My mom, a high school graduate, could predict 50 years ago what was going to happen with marijuana, you know?
So listen, so let's talk about this because first of all, it's fascinating what's going on in the city of Detroit right now. Let's before we get to your, your intentions here with this ballot initiative. Let's back up for a second because Detroit and the licensing issues that have been contemplated, give a lot of thought, have been, I know there's been 2 lawsuits filed.
Yeah.
The more significant one is just to set the record, and we were talking about this before, the city of Detroit contemplated for a long time what they were going to do when they decided to opt in for recreational marijuana, and they created a licensing scheme for the recreational that contemplates this legacy concept, which involves a person that's lived in the city of Detroit. And the business that is applying for the license has to have a legacy owning 50% of the company or the business. There was a lawsuit filed by a person. The challenge, I think, was something to the effect of that they didn't have a continuous period of time living in the city, maybe like 8 years in and then 2 years out, then came back. Some technical thing. We do think that that person is just a placeholder for a larger company that doesn't like having to hire a legacy. Anyways, lawsuits filed in federal court, injunctive relief. Judge Bernard Friedman granted the injunction, instructing the city that they couldn't issue any licenses for recreational. And Todd and I know what that means. That means that the court found, amongst other things, that the plaintiffs were likely to prevail, or had, one of the issues is likely to prevail, which does not bode well for the city. In the meantime, there's been some grumblings of what the city is going to do and how they're going to react to it. I don't know if they've contemplated if the statute does get struck down, but one of the things that can be done is they can run a ballot initiative, and in your idea here of running the ballot initiative and it contemplating a multitude of factors and took on a lot of interesting ideas in order to get people out to vote, and I thought that was fascinating. I want you to explain it a little bit more, but one of the things that I thought was interesting, and this is what I was getting at, because you seem to recognize that not everyone in the city of Detroit's in favor of cannabis and the businesses being there. And if they're going to be, there should be something in it for the citizens that are going to vote for it. I mean, it's inherent in what the city was trying to do, I think, and what the ballot initiative said. I'm making, and this is something that I was kind of trying to get at before. I get the impression that there isn't a unanimous consent of the leadership and citizens, the ones that the community in the city of Detroit, the leadership being the neighborhood, the neighborhood leaders, the churches. There's still resistance to it to a certain degree, and amongst other things, which are the other issues here, I saw that you're targeting those folks. You're trying to get them on board, get them out to vote, because when that happens, better things will happen and people are more active. But you're trying to reach their common sense and appeal. And of course, the intent is to create a reparations program for the marijuana that's taxed for city of Detroit residents that would be eligible. But there's a lot there to unpackage, and I know that a lot of thought went into it. But talk a little bit about what the intention is here, and if you can, explain a little bit about the logic of trying to appeal this. And correct me if I'm wrong. Some of these citizens that may be, that are indifferent or not even don't like the idea of cannabis businesses, commercial businesses in the city.
Well, there's a lot.
I know. I'm sorry.
You laid it all out there.
I'm sorry.
So I guess they'll take it home on the A train. We'll do this one on this one, I guess. But you did lay it out there pretty well. So one, I'd like to start with the fact that, my thought process is not the same as many other African Americans, because what I found in African American households, and particularly the older population of African Americans, is a far more conservative outlook on society than I think even white America, or mainstream America. And that's just historical. There's a guy who I don't agree with, but he's a very learned guy, Thomas Sewell.
I know. Yep.
Who always talks about, he's one of those conservative people, very right. He's a right winger, and I'm not talking about right wing people in the city of Detroit. I'm talking about they're just conservative. They're not right wing. They're just conservative, and they don't get with and they don't vibe with marijuana. Just like in Highland Park, where I used to be city attorney. There's an older population in Highland Park, which is also transitioning into a younger population now. But, there's an older population and they're very reluctant to this idea. But, some of them, they're such hypocrites because some of them are at home smoking and I know them, so it's just,
When you say conservative, you mean like socially conservative?
Socially conservative.
Right.
Yes. My thought process is I said, hey, blacks are socially conservative, but we can't be conservative from an economic standpoint because nobody's giving us shit, you know what I'm saying? Or they're not giving us an opportunity to have that transition of wealth and that transfer of wealth from a generational perspective. And that's the whole concept with reparations, though, is to find that balance there. But again, in this situation, what we have, and I have to give credit to like Keith Williams, who's head of the Democratic Black Caucus, and Alexis Ramsey, who's his vice chair. And so they had this idea that they wanted to, because it happened in Evanston, Indiana.
Much more progressive on this issue, much more.
Absolutely. And you would think that's Indiana, but still it happened. And it's a smaller city. And I'm not too, but Keith and Alexis, they're very familiar about that issue. But, I heard about, and I'm like you said, as lawyers, we've become activists, right? And as we've gotten older, we see, and sometimes we're making up for things that we might not have done in our professional lives, that we want to write those things in our activist perspective spaces. So they wanted to create reparations in Detroit. So as we look at the charter, in Detroit, citizens in our charter cannot appropriate money through legislation. So there's two prongs, and you can't include it in the same petition. So what our organization, which is called the People's Voice, is a 501c4 that I created and have a board. And the People's Voice has gone out and sought signatures for releasing the restriction for allowing the citizens of Detroit, through legislation or even later on in any other position, to be able to put on the ballot and vote as to how to spend money that's on the balance sheet. So this aspect actually has so much more firepower than even just the reparations piece, because this is truly empowering of your citizenry. This is something that they could say, look, because we know, just as we spent half the show today talking about how our leaders and how our politicians, they don't know what the hell they're doing anyway in a lot of things. And if the citizens have an opportunity to make legislation to appropriate money in which ways that they see and they think are efficient uses of the tax dollars, then so be it. You should see all the comments that I get on my Facebook page from Detroiters talking about, you're going around spending money we don't have. I said, listen, man, I'm talking about something, because I look at the whole reparations piece. Yeah, it is to create ideas. I'm not looking to send checks. I don't believe in sending checks, because that's almost like feeding a man for the day. I want to teach that person how to fish. So I believe that the money should be used for education, the money should be used for housing, the money should be used for business development, and with the focus of African-American participation in these particular activities, which we're oftentimes overlooked. So that's what I did, and our team, not me, just our team, and I have to give credit to all those people out there who just, some donated their time, some were paid, but nonetheless, regardless, in a short time frame, we put together this ballot, and we also helped the other side, who actually has the ballot initiative, to seek out signatures to create a local reparations fund. They were unsuccessful in getting their signatures because of some snafus with the petitions that they had and different things like that. So they went to city council and lobbied their interest to city council. And so Council Pro Tem Mary Sheffield proposed a resolution which did pass. And there's actually a press conference on it tomorrow, and they've invited me to come because our group owns the other side, owns the idea of the other side. We don't own anything because it's for the people, right?
Sure.
So, and getting back to the point, because you had so much in that statement, and your audience has to recognize your group's intelligence about all these issues is really uncanny, because you said a lot. Let's not forget about what this litigation in the city of Detroit before Judge Friedman, what that means, because there's some city council members who just want to get away with it, just throw away with it all. I don't want to participate in recreational marijuana anymore, blah, because they didn't want it in the first place. Their hand was kind of forced into doing it. And so my thing with using the funds from the funds, because I look at it, let's look at it logically. Every city has financial stress. And there's not enough, and the tax base, particularly in Detroit, has decreased, yet the needs are still there and probably have increased. So budgets have increased for specific departments. The police, we need, like you said, police need to be paid more money. So there's more money needed over there. So I looked at marijuana has not been something that's actually been allocated yet. So give us that so that we can take those funds and we can create this local reparations fund, because in the spirit of Dan Gilbert, Dan Gilbert put a lot of money into the community. And his thought process, I remember, I can't quote him directly, but his thought process was, he says, look, I got to make sure people can buy houses so that I can sell them mortgages. So it's the same kind of concept with this thing. It's not like giving somebody a check. I think that in Evanston, Indiana, they're actually giving weekly checks to, or monthly checks to people. I don't think that that's a real good use of the money, but that's not me. I just want to be part of something, this momentum is a good thing. And, so also what you get within that particular bill, if this thing gets on the ballot, you can't have politicians in the city of Detroit, go against an idea of having reparations. Once the people are educated, the problem with reparations is the real unfortunate problem about reparations is the people that I see who are on your show, and gauging, you guys are in the same company of knowledge. A lot of people, everyday people, don't know what reparations are.
It's kind of like the idea of defund the police. Like, it's got a lot of different meanings, right? And people just envision one thing. You're talking about it having a greater, bigger meaning, not writing a check to individuals, investing in some particular.
So we have to spend some time educating the people. If it gets on the ballot, the rest of the funds, the rest of our efforts has to be spent on educating the people as to what it is, because you're going to get outside organizations who are just against the idea of reparations, and you're going to get a lot of pushback on that, not only from mainstream America, but also African Americans, because they're all they're people who say, I don't want any handout and things like that. This is not a handout. This is not something that I agree. I don't think people should have a handout. That's just creating a welfare system. And I don't want to create a welfare system. I want to create a system that's there to support people who want to seek greater opportunity in America. Well, they want their piece of the American dream. And this gives them an opportunity to give them a little push, and without the idea of the chattels that come with it, the discriminatory tactics that come with it. Because if reparations is here and it's voted on, it's also a symbolic step forward, a massive step forward for America, in the sense that, one, there's an acknowledgement there was something done wrong. So people can recognize, okay, it wasn't just me, that I wasn't feeling this and just the only person thinking this. There's an acknowledgement. And then there's atonement in this idea of reparations. So the atoning and those kind of, those things.
Healing, they're healing.
and they'll crescendo into something great. It's just, it's kind of like how we talked about how, the idea of where we're talking about letting people out of jail, they crescendoed into something. This is no different. I think that from a spiritual perspective, the idea of doing something right, it's always going to lead to positive results. But it's going to come with a lot of resistance because some people are maligned in their spirit and some people are ignorant in their spirit. And then some people just want to be in the same. They don't like change. And that's where you get older people. They don't like change, So, but no, it's an exciting moment that, we have here. And it's, I'm so glad that I was had a, I didn't know where I was going to find the time to do it, but you got a chance to do it, and now we're just waiting to see if they want to knock off our signatures, and if they do, then we're going to be going to court about that. Because you come after me, I'm going to come after you, and I believe our mission is right, not righteous, but right. It's good. It's something that we believe is good, and we're not doing it for any other reason than just that. And so if you come and attack us, the campaign from a legal perspective will be to out you as the devil that you are, because shame on you. So hey, if they attack it, we're ready to go that way. If they don't, so be it. We'll then start on the education process.
So the two things, the one ballot that was turned in, not the one you're working on, was rejected, but the city then adopted a resolution. So
right.
That's
they didn't turn them in because they knew they were so far away. They had to start over.
Right.
And when they started over, they probably got it takes 3,608 signatures.
Okay.
So we submitted approximately 3,920. Because you want to have
yeah, of course.
Yeah, you want to have a 10%
sure.
buffer. So I would have liked to have had more. We actually have more, and we're still getting signatures because we believe there's a provision in the law if the clerk says that ours are deficient, that they have to give us a 15-day window to cure it. So, right. But you have to start off by getting over the 3608, which we did.
Sure.
So we're still out gathering signatures and things like that.
And they're going to challenge and say they're not registered voters or whatever. You're going to go through all that, and then you got the appeal. Right. Is it you're trying to get it?
Also going to challenge I'm sure they're going to challenge the constitutionality of it.
Right. That's true. And it would be that. Well, first of all, the ballot initiative process is it's probably it's the best thing Michigan's got going. You don't like the law, don't break it, go out and change it. And the MMA and the recreational law were products of ballot initiatives. So I feel you on that, because the legislature, in fact, to their detriment, the Republicans blew it, because in 2018, knowing that the recreational law was going to pass,
they could have changed it any which way they wanted.
They could have adopted it. And you know how many people would not have shown up to vote? You know who wouldn't have been elected? A lot of the Democrats, right? And you're thinking the exact same way here, that this is it brings people out, you get change, and and you're predicting that. Does it matter to you? I mean, I didn't think this through, but if the Friedman rules one way or the other, or does your ballot initiative, if it's either adopted by the legislature or it gets on, it will amend the code to allow for these facilities in the city of Detroit, which then link to the resolution for reparations? Is that how that will work?
Well, I look at it, so these are the mechanical things that you're talking about. So I look at it like this. One, we need this in place so that citizens can make laws and live in the true spirit of being a Michigander.
Right.
Don't break the law, make the law. And so this gives them an opportunity to make the law and to spend their own money in ways that are reasonable. That, because you think about it. If a guy says, I want a Kool-Aid stand on every corner, and I think that's what we should have a proposal for, that the people are not going to vote for that. And the thing is, if they do, that's what they wanted. So, hey, if that's what they wanted, but at some point in time, the ridiculousness of some of the proposals that may come through, getting the signatures, that kind of sensationalism wears out after it becomes, not appealing to that person, to those people. and it's probably going to be a small number of people anyway. But so you get that portion, and let's say the reparations portion passes. Now the reparations portion would create a local reparations fund, and a commission rather, and it would create a local reparations fund once the money starts to come in. Where it would come from, that it would be dependent on what the language of that particular petition is. I don't know what the language is. I haven't had anything to do with the drafting of that. I did have something to do with the help with the drafting of the initial one that they did not get the signatures on. We had helped them out as far as our team did, as far as some legal research and things of that nature. But here's what I look at. Okay, so this passes. All I want is ours to pass because, hey, if the recreational law is thrown out, it's coming back. I mean, the momentum of marijuana and the scourge that marijuana used to wear is wearing off. So if it doesn't have, they're just going to rewrite the law. And, the smart city council people will be proactive in doing that. And they'll propose their own ordinance, and they'll do that because, it got voted in. So just because it's now gets thrown out by the court, if I was a politician, just from a politician standpoint, I would get on board and stay, even if I was against it, I would want to write it in a way that it captured the voice of the people, because those are the people that I represent. Sometimes, it's not so, marijuana is not so egregious in any way that even if I'm against marijuana, that I can't see why, and I can't understand and appreciate why someone else would want to engage in the use of marijuana.
Right.
It's not cocaine.
Right. The idea is that it's not as dangerous as alcohol, and people shouldn't be getting locked up for the possession or tobacco. And people should I don't like the argument that I don't like marijuana, but I believe that my kid shouldn't be locked up, or someone who gets arrested for possession should be locked. That's insane, right? Like that's something people can buy into, especially with the history and the disproportionate way it's been effectuated in communities.
But what I do want people to do, with all this talk about marijuana and everything like that, I do want people to start understanding about, and we need to educate people on this issue of marijuana, is that you still can't drive and smoke marijuana. Because they're going to tag you. I believe that with the clubs, with the issue with medical marijuana, when that was started out, when medical marijuana started out, I always believed, because I'm a conspiracy theorist, that they were going to cross-index people's medical marijuana cards with their driver's license, and then it would allow police officers to say, hey, you've been smoking marijuana. And the 1 nanogram gets you a drunk driving case or a drug driving case or whatever. That's ridiculous. But again, that's the educational process that I think we need to go into now, because, police can't necessarily pull you out of the car because of the smell of marijuana. But if they say, I smell burnt marijuana, then it's a probable cause to believe this person's been smoking, and I can, hey, I'm gonna take them into the jail and get have them have a piss test or something like that. So that's not unreasonable if they state it in a proper way.
Sure.
I think so.
Although I will say this, it is, I think unlike alcohol, I don't think, like the whole thing with the alcohol, the propaganda associated with the .08 and the effectiveness of the police in propagating .08 as the level, right? So if you're in a jury trial and the jury hears a 1-7, they're oh my God, they're really fucking drunk, but they have no idea what it means, because the folklore and the cultural understanding of that. I don't know if it has persevered yet to cannabis. That's number one. I don't think it's like beaten. And I think some people may think differently. Second of all, they tried to create a per se limit in Michigan, and they did a bunch of studies. They had a work group, the Michigan State Police. They researched, and they said, we can't come up with one because it's irrelevant. Like some people may have a level in their blood of 20 nanograms of THC. Someone may have 1. The 20 could be fine. The 1 could be stoned out of their mind. There's no correlation there. So, it's a lot of fails. And besides, as I know, and it's always a good time to do a quick public service announcement, when encountering a police officer is inquiring or investigating you for what may be the perception of driving after smoking cannabis, remember these things. 1, don't talk. don't walk and don't spit, because all these things are just going to provide evidence for the police that they will use against you later on. But you're right, Todd. It's an area that is just like with alcohol. Like, okay, they're regulating alcohol, and you can drink it, and you can buy it, and you can, manufacture and sell it, and then but you get in a car, the police are going to control and regulate all of that. I wanted to return to some of the ideas that the city, understand their intention, and even in the framework of what the messaging that you're trying to I'm perceiving the message you're trying to get out to the community, which is, look, it's here to stay. The city should be in. We should get our peace. We can do good things with this. What are you going to fight it? We're going to be in court for years. A lot of opportunity here. Let's grab this opportunity. Where else is it coming from? A lot of people in the city of Detroit. Let's make something here. Let's build something. I love that. And I've thought of this a lot. I remember even at the city council, I was there. I don't know. This is a long time ago. It was during the MMA, and
those were good times.
They were. And there's a picture. I don't know. But I remember saying to them, the city of Detroit should embrace this. You've got, and utilize it and get better policing and put the funds over here and whatever. But now we're in the realistic situation. It's no longer existential. It's a realistic thing. It's here. They actually have right in front of them. And it's fun to kind of think about how this could actually be put together. When somebody called, I don't remember, one of the groups that was working on the submission of ideas to the city council, asked me some of my thoughts and ideas, whatever. And just off the top of my head, I always like the idea of creating, because they could have created any licensing scheme that they wanted to. I like the idea of limiting the recreationals to and I don't love the business model, but the micro businesses, which are really, they need more plants. That's the problem with it. But if you created 100 micro businesses in the city, so you have a limited amount of, 150 plants at this store in this neighborhood, right? And so it doesn't become too big of a, it's going to keep out some of the bigger corporate stuff. It provides opportunity for locals. It's not, it's whatever you grow, you can sell at the front door. You're reliant on that. And, it's a small business owner's model. You know what I mean? And so I like that idea because it becomes local. Then you get the local branding. Each neighborhood's got its own mom and pop stop, And that's not to say it wouldn't grow into a larger, bigger business, but it's certainly an opportunity that will, let people into the market at a minimum without an outrageous amount of capital investment, just on the start. But of course, you need the capital for the property, So this is another piece to it. You have the licensing and incentiving for the community to get into these businesses, and it doesn't have to be that. It could be grows. It could be any one of the licenses, but the other piece of this is you need capital investing and, and you need the properties to be fixed up, and there's got to be, liberal zoning for these areas that makes sense. I always thought, and I'll give you this, and if you get anywhere with it, I just want a little cut of it, but the Bank of Detroit to fund all this stuff, you know what I mean? And have some kind of community bank that the city's involved in, and, people can invest in, the money's there to fix up. I mean, that's always a thing. Or get a REIT of some kind where you're investing in properties that you're going to rehabilitate, that you can turn into industrial buildings for, rehab for these purposes or whatnot. There's a lot to be done there. I know there's a lot of people, of all backgrounds that would love to be involved with, investing in real estate and fixing up the city of Detroit, as Dan Gilbert, evidences for whatever his reasons are. There's other people that, and it doesn't mean that the city itself couldn't do that, but they should create that as an incentive, as one of the pieces where there's investment, benefits, tax write-offs or paybacks of some kind. And what you were saying, I think, is where I think these reparations would come in, where you have all the resources necessary for these new licensed business owners to take advantage of. You have, at their disposal, all the, chief financial officers to handle all the tax issues, 280E. You have compliance and lawyers giving advice, someone helping with their contracts or whatever. And it's a resource that's there for them that they can reach into and even get those resources before they may enter into the market, so they can get counsel and advice as they, wade themselves through this. If that's what you're trying to do, you want to lead with education and create a avenue for people to have the resources that will make the business endeavor successful. And I think that's how I'm kind of taking what you're getting at. Like for that, I mean, there's 1,000 ways to spend that money, but clearly that could be something that would entice the city to want to get behind it, and also create a like a safety net for the businesses that want to get into it, and create greater chances of success. What are your thoughts on any of that?
Well, I definitely agree with that. That goes more along the idea of not just, that's a more expansive idea of where we need to be going. I mean, it's just what you're doing is you're creating real infrastructure that people can benefit from, rather than the whole mindset of, oh, here's a check. I hate to reduce it down to that, but it's that, or what you're saying. I mean, I imagine there's some kind of in between, but we're not talking about billions of dollars for one, but we are talking about a steady flow of revenue, which as population increases, as the businesses increase, the marijuana businesses industry increases. Because I always look at, why not us be the Silicon Valley for this?
Of course.
I totally believe that. We've got these guys. I represent, Sanford Plotkin.
Sure.
About 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, he introduced me to some guys from, you got these guys from University of Michigan, the hash bash guys, but they've been doing this for years. And I'm talking about, these are engineers, these are scientists who are doing this. And, we definitely have the intellectual capacity. We have the land to do it, because we have so much unused land. We just have all of the ability and the capability of doing it, that, like you said, hey, let's let this mom and pop operation, that will take care of 3, 4, 5, 6 families. You know what I'm saying? And look at all the tangential businesses that will flow from that.
And they'll open a shrimp shop across the street, because after they buy their cannabis, there you go. We forgot to promote the shrimp shop. Go ahead. Let's give him a shout out. What is that called? Tell everybody.
Lynette's Shrimp House.
That's right. What's the location?
Lynette's Restaurant in Highland Park, right there, Woodward and Davidson, across from the Wendy's. It used to be Miley and Miley Shrimp. So for people our age, we remember those things, the Miley and Miley Shrimp, and that was what we decided that we were going to reopen. When I got the building or bought the property several years back, my wife, who's passed away, that I named it after her.
That's what I thought. Yes.
So that was our goal. Why would you change a place that had been a restaurant for 50 years? So my thing is, bring on all the marijuana, because what happens after marijuana?
You got to eat. That's what I was going to say. And that one business is going to feed 5 or 6 families. We'll open a coffee shop and a sandwich shop. I mean, it builds, we're building neighborhoods. We're recasting job opportunities locally, right?
What about when you go to New York and, you're in, those bodegas and things like that? That, you got a bodega here, you got a restaurant there. There's certain people who live in New York City that don't have to go down to Wall Street, don't have to go downtown. And they may go downtown to shop or something like that, but there are places and nice places to shop in their own neighborhoods. So
that's living in New York. Like, people don't get on a taxi and go to get food over here. They walk down to their local place. They walk over here and get their groceries. Yeah, that's.
But that's what you're talking about creating when you're talking about, now that's not a handout. That is building a community, one brick and one piece of mortar and brick at a time. And so why could you, I scratch my head. I can't understand why people would be reluctant to that kind of idea, man. I mean, it's.
Well, I think the answer to that is, the social conservatives don't believe in sin tax, right? Or morality taxes. You've heard this before. You know what I mean? Like, oh, don't worry about it. We're going to get some gambling in here, and we're going to let our money back to the city, right? Or, well, open some more liquor shops. It's all taxable. But that to me has always been the. I remember advocating early, and someone would say, I'd be meeting with someone from the west side of the state that was not a syntax type of person. They just, whatever you do, don't bring that up. Don't say like it's tax revenue from this evil cannabis. You know, like don't even. So that I don't. That's how I always see some of the, if that's a connection. But
yeah, the same guy is probably wearing a corset under his shirt.
That's right. That's right. What was I going to say? The infrastructure building. I was going to say this. You know, the city of Ann Arbor. You know, they released all the numbers from the state. That is incidentally making they're reporting $110 million in sales every month in cannabis. That means that $110 million is being transferred for the purchase of marijuana, and it's about 70 to 30 for recreational to medical. And they released the 2019 fiscal year, or maybe it's 2019, and distributed the checks in 2020 for the tax revenue created from the recreational program. And I think the city of Ann Arbor got $460,000. And they have, they're capped out, I think, at 10 dispensaries. What I also learned was that the city of Ann Arbor then gave that $460,000 to the court because after they legalized marijuana, there's a void of business and a void of money for them to pay their bills with. Oh. But I'm okay with that because I'd rather them get it from the tax than the citizens. But it just shows you how reliant the criminalization of marijuana was to the broken system. I mean, it's...
Well, look at the broken system. The broken system means that we make sure to arrest people so that we can keep an industry going. You know, how wrong is that?
You may have attended this CAP seminar, but me and my compadre over here, Jeff Frazier, were there in the middle of this Michigan State Forensic Science Division scandal where we caught them with their you-know-what in the mashed potatoes. And we heard the director of the Forensic Science Division, this guy named Mashad, who's now owns a testing lab, ironically, say that 40% of the Michigan State Police Forensic Science Division budget is spent on testing marijuana. If you want to know why there's a backlog in the rape kits, it's that. That's the best fodder for a reason to leave it alone. You know, like who's going to argue with what? That seems a little cockeyed there, right? Like that's not.
I mean, I can understand you testing oxycodone and and heroin and cocaine. Marijuana, come on. I mean, why don't you just get your own tester? You give it to this guy over here and he can tell you what it is, where it was grown, everything,
But you know what I mean? I'm talking pre-legalization. 40% they get $660 million budget. 40% of that that's the total budget. I don't know what the lab gets. Maybe but they're spending 40% of it testing marijuana, which translates to a docket in court after court after court throughout the state must be made up of 40% of marijuana cases. It only makes sense, right? I mean, it just shows the disproportionality of expenditures, and I think there's a void there. I think these, and anyways, I've digressed and whatnot, but it is, these are the things you're talking about. Quote, reparations. Where's this money going to go? Where is it going to be best used? And clearly reinvesting in the city of Detroit with, the city of Detroit could have, they got a bigger population. They could have more business. They got more people that come into the city of Detroit, leave, and are going to participate in the retail market. A lot of tax dollars there to move around. That, and again, I'm not arguing for, tax all sins and stuff, but it's a no-brainer. It's working, and I don't know. There's not a lot of other opportunities that are coming into play. That's been the beauty of it. You know what I mean? I don't know how much cannabis work you do, but it's certainly,
But I just see so many other, because look at what you're going to have on the cannabis. Well, I do a lot of it now, more so from preparation, helping with the preparation of applications and things of that.
Sure.
But look at what we have as far as again, the tangential businesses, the fertilizer, the equipment, all those things. But even still, it results in people having more money to become consumers in other just industries that we have a dearth of in the city of Detroit. I mean, don't get me wrong. Detroit is making its way. I think clawing its way back, and it's really like and we just need to see that come to the neighborhoods. Downtown is there's cranes up, there's development going on, there's rehabbing going on. Let's just move that into the neighborhoods, and it may take something like a micro shop here and there, because it's not like, okay, I don't think my neighborhood was any different. We smoke marijuana. They smoke marijuana everywhere. So, the same people who have to, and I don't want to be damn them, but again, there's so many people, okay, I'm going to drive over on the other west side of Detroit because there's nothing over here. Then I'm going to drive to 8 Mile where, East Point's going to come around 8 Mile and stop me and I don't have a license. And then, boom, I'm in trouble. So, which happens, and again, those businesses on 8 Mile are not going to lose any sweat over some micro shops,
right?
The city. It's enough business to go around. It just is. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
That's right. What's your take on Mayor Duggan? I saw you get interviewed, and I wasn't. You mentioned him, and I wasn't sure if. I couldn't. You don't have to even answer. I'm just curious. Do you think he?
No, I don't mind. I mean, hey, I'm not.
I don't know.
I don't know Mayor Duggan. I'm not a Detroiter. So unfortunately, I am a Detroiter at heart. I grew up in the city of Detroit. It's just that, for the past 2 decades, I've been outside the city of Detroit. But as far as Mayor Duggan, I guess some of my issues and concerns with Mayor Duggan is that he has not seen, or I've not seen the type of progressiveness into building up African-American contractors in various different areas. He'll pick one or pick two. It's almost like the movie industry. He's, I'm going to go to my Denzel, or I'm going to go, to this other black actor. And, and I'm going to give them all the work rather than looking to build up smaller companies and things of that nature. I haven't seen that from his administration, but as far as the effectiveness of some of the things that he's done, he probably had one of the best, other than the snafu of talking about the vaccine and all that, the negativity that came around that. I don't think anybody rolled out the vaccine anywhere in the country better than he did. So I look at him as he's going to win. Again, I just don't see anybody who can compete with that guy. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's a career politician, and he knows how to win. Shit, he won. He's a white guy that won in the city of Detroit. Come on, he beat Benny Napoleon, and everybody loves Benny or loved Benny. And
sure.
So he knows what he's doing. So I just think that he needs to be more focused on looking at that, particularly in a city that is, overwhelmingly African American.
What do you think about the shakeup of who was the retired?
Craig.
Yeah, Craig. Yeah, running for governor.
I here's what I think about that. I think that Craig, the way that a guy like Duggan, I believe, operates, he doesn't want to fire an African American police chief. So let them both go away and separate in an amicable way. He claims that he's going to run for governor. I think in 6 months he's going to say, well, we did some focus groups and I'm going to focus my interests on going in this direction. Now, personally, I think Craig should stay on Fox News, wind up getting a $5 million a year contract and continue doing what he's doing. He likes being on Fox News, so let him continue to do that. But running for governor, I mean, he's going to get smashed. I like Whitmer, and, I'm a fan of Whitmer's. Plus, she appointed my brother a judge.
There you go.
So I can't, even before that, I just think that her ability to be strong and to take the hits that she's taking, she's a real trailblazer.
It's interesting.
She's fresh all the time. She's always,
It's interesting the way that your observation of that, because all of them are getting fucking bombarded. And sometimes it may just be like how well you respond and react to it that sets you apart from everybody else. There's no
It's just like,
panic.
it's like boxing. You absorb, you absorb so many punches, and you continue to absorb them up until the point where you've absorbed enough and they've run out of energy punching you. And then, then you march back with the Rocky song going and you level them.
Right,
because
right.
they're tired. They've spent all their cash, or cachet, as they say, on berating you. But, it's almost like some people who like, the criticism that I had with Hillary Clinton. She wanted to talk about how bad Trump was, and he really was. But you can never really win a campaign talking about how bad someone is. So I don't think that they're going to beat her by talking about how bad she is.
Agreed.
What is your plan to do something better for the citizens of the state of Michigan? I think she's got a better plan.
All right, it's almost over, but I have one final thing I want to ask you about real quick. I had this encounter, and I know that it's such a crazy case and story that I had, but it relates back to getting this call from the Wayne County Prosecutor's Conviction Integrity Unit from a murder case that I had in October of 2001, like a month after 9/11. And I can tell you every player that was there. Dan Ryan was the judge.
Oh, boy.
And Mike Wagner was the prosecutor. Bob Slamica was my co-counsel. And, I get this call, and I remember after the jury got the case, Ryan comes out and says, "This is my prediction. Komorn's guy's going to walk. Slamica's guy is going to get murdered too." They came back murder one for both, and it was a crazy case. And, it's a tough thing to live with. It's one of those things like, what are you going to do here? Are you going to shake and break, or are you going to fucking pick yourself up and figure out what you're going to do? You know what I mean? Because it's really, it's heavy. And if you're anything worth your salt as a lawyer, as a human, it's hard to. It questions your entire existence. You know what I mean? So I fought through it, picked myself up, told myself whatever I needed to hear to keep going. And I probably lost sleep over it at some point, probably, whatever. But then you get this call 20 years later saying, "Oh, by the way, Mr. Komorn, that case, well, all that shit you were arguing about, all those accusations of lying, cheating, stealing, burying the fucking evidence, you were right. We're setting aside the fucking conviction." And they let this guy go. So I don't know. So I don't know if you've had any of those experiences. I want to ask you a little about Kim Worthy, but I think we should get together and run a ballot initiative that every single prosecutor's office across the state needs a conviction integrity unit.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I brought this up at another.
Karen McDonald is doing one. I don't think she's got it up and running yet. But, there's going to be a lot of play because they had a lot of bad actors out there.
Oakland County, oh, yeah. It's just beginning. There's some stories that...
Karen is awesome.
We love her, yep.
That lady, Jessica Cooper, was... I mean, besides not being able to hold her head up, she was... she just was dialing it in. And, you've got these other guys running around and women running around doing what they wanted to do and, hiding evidence as prosecutors.
Yes, yes. I was rather impressed with, and his, and I don't say this about politicians, and it was just interesting to me because, as I said, you hear a lot of promises about cannabis, and it's an important issue in our community, and expectations are high, and there's still some carnage that exists out there, and there's a lot of, injustice and social justice issues. But this Eli Savit out in Washtenaw County, when he gets into office, he didn't just walk the walk. He was talking the talk. He said, "This institution about marijuana, let me tell you about it." And he wrote this 5-page. It's like if I had to write a memo, it would involve reefer madness in the 30s. It involved the Stamp Act. It involved the Nixon administration, the Schaefer report, the disproportion. And he listed all this in his, and he said, "We're not doing it. Don't bring me a marijuana case. My office will not sign it."
Yeah.
He also was in favor of, psychedelics and sex workers. Yeah, whatever. But the point is,
I think he's more so against the heavy-handedness of and the vilification of those areas to the extent, like, I'm sure if you hear about some
sex trafficking,
yeah, he's not going to allow that. But because what happens is it allows that prosecution of that one offense.
Right.
It's almost like the whole fakeness behind the war on drugs.
Right.
People who on the lower level were the ones doing all the time when the top tier people didn't do anything.
The idea that we're still going to arrest people for marijuana when we're giving out licenses is insane. The fact that the state's collecting recognize $110 million in sales, and they're still calling it a Schedule I controlled substance is insane. You're right. I mean, it was the first, and he took over for a prosecutor that's been there 41 years. I don't know. That was a big act, I thought, in light of all the reform movement. I know that Victoria, you're probably friendly with Victoria Burton, right? I don't know if.
Oh yeah, Burton Harris.
Yeah, Burton Harris. I think she's the brains behind a lot of that. I know she ran on a really strong reform platform as well.
Against Kim.
Yeah. I wish I knew about it early. I mean, I kind of after a certain candidate that I got behind and was emotionally depressed about their failure to pull through for me, I kind of refused to get involved anymore, but get too emotional about it. But I know that she was a great candidate and she's doing great work out in Washtenaw. But do you still Kim is not, I don't know that Kim is so pro-cannabis. I think she doesn't care for it and does never really...
I think she's doing less prosecution of it. She, in her campaign speeches or during the campaign trail, she's indicating how few marijuana prosecutions that she had. And I see that prosecutions are down, and having someone in my office, well, not to get into it, there are certain situations in which there would be serious felonies, and now these people are having misdemeanors in potential behavior that could really that is a misdemeanor or could potentially be a felony,
right.
Because we're still talking about something that is on the books. It's still a law. It's still a law, and definitely federally, it's still a federal law. I remember an argument I had in front of Duggan's father in federal court, and he says, I just knew I was on this riff, like a jazz riff. I was flowing really hard in this courtroom, right? And he sat back, and he had this. I'm thinking to myself, what is Duggan thinking about? And he's sitting back listening. He was so cool. I liked him. And, even though he could be hard, I just, and he sit back and he go 5-10 minutes. He says, and then he leans forward. He says, man, those are the best words I've heard. He says, but, I hate to cut your sails and sink your boat. He says, but, over here in federal court, I knew when he said that. He says, marijuana, because they got into this guy's house because they went into his trash pool. And they found these marijuana, these sticks, the unusable material, which is still marijuana. And that's how they got the search warrant. But I was going on this riff about all these other things. And he says, hey, over here, it's still illegal in the federal system. He says, so I'm going to have to deny your motion. But, I think in time we're going to get there, too, because, the federal government does not want to continue losing out on money. Because how many more people, you got $110 million worth of sales coming every month. But what about the black market sales?
Oh, yeah.
It's probably that much, or if not more.
Oh, yeah.
So they're missing out.
They are missing out. It's interesting times. I feel like I could go on if I could take a break and then come back for another couple hours. But listen, you've been so gracious with your time, my friend. I really enjoyed catching up. I was either going to take you out for lunch, or coffee, or we were going to do it live on. But this was just like talking to an old friend. I really enjoyed it. You're great.
Oh, I had a great time. I did.
We do got to we got to get some cases or work on some action together. Seriously, I think we got to.
We will. Something. Highland Park's opening up.
Are they?
Yeah. They should be taking applications, I think, in July.
Awesome.
The second week of July. I just met with the city council president, who the city council hired a consultant to help them with that process, and the clerk is moving forward with that.
I remember seeing you at an event for a mayor that may not be there anymore. You were doing that. What are you doing? Your something Mondays?
My First Fridays.
First Fridays.
Yeah, you and Derek Coleman were
That's right. And we were talking about hemp and how hemp was going to save everything.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see they've come full circle now, right? That's really what this is. They've gone around the moon now and come back.
Right. Well, like I said, it's being an older population, it took some coming around to them to get to there. It had to be a change in the city council makeup.
Sure.
It's a much younger city council that proposed that legislation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I'm gonna call you. I'm still gonna take it. We gotta do some more. I know you're busy as hell, but I'm gonna find my way to your.
We make time for friends.
We
right?
do.
Yeah.
Listen, what's the name of that? Everyone should get some shrimp tomorrow at Todd's place.
Oh yeah, Lynette's.
Lynette's.
Right at Woodward and Davison.
I thought we were doing a remote broadcast.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we talked about?
We're doing a remote broadcast from Lynette's. Yeah. That's the next play. We like to take the podcast on the road. Can we broadcast from there?
It's a carryout place.
Oh,
so,
the parking lot then. I'm kidding.
We could set up a tent.
Yeah, we've got a trailer.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We'll get it going on. And the weather's just great.
It is.
We love shrimp.
Oh,
we
yeah.
love shrimp. So we'll be your best customers.
Oh, yeah. We make a great shrimp. We got shrimp pasta salad. I mean, we also have other things too, like chicken and fish. And on the weekends, we have barbecue.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Listen, give my apologies to your kids and your wife for keeping you up so late. You should be
all right.
I know.
Yeah.
All right.
Tomorrow, I'm after I leave the office, I'll go work up there for a couple hours. But I got a sleep study tomorrow, so I got to leave at 8:00 to go to my sleep study.
Are they studying how you sleep? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, because I got sleep apnea. So
I didn't know that.
Those CPAP machines, and I've got to get fitted for one.
Didgeridoo. There's an Australian instrument. It's a horn. It's been shown to be very effective. A friend of mine used it, blew that horn, helped his sleep apnea. Didgeridoo.
Didgeridoo, he's calling it. Have you heard of that before? I'm sure that,
Didgeridoo. Google it, brother. It's good for apnea.
Didgeridoo or something like that.
Didgeridoo.
Because you got the flap, like blocks the breathing. Is that what it is? And you wake up. Yeah. That's happening.
That muscle.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Didgeridoo.
What about playing like saxophone or something? Will that do it? Saxophone? I don't know.
Sure.
That's another. You have to figure out the other jazz. I know you're a wordsmith and you're jazz riffing on words, but maybe you got to start
blowing a horn,
doing the sax or something. I don't know.
Yeah, hey, I got something. Also, I got to lose some weight. That's what I have to do.
There you go.
Yeah, I got to lose some.
Lawyering is hard on the body and mind. It's tough.
Yeah,
we gotta. It's just too much.
I got a couple hours to do tonight anyway.
We're both too young to be this gray. Seriously, look at I'm aging. Look at this wrinkle I got. I mean, seriously. But all right, listen. You're the best. We'll start working out together. That's what we should do. It'd be good for both of us.
Hey, I'm out here. I'm not gonna run tonight, but I'm definitely running this weekend. I like running outside. So
I feel you.
Catching the heat.
All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this again. I appreciate you so much. Seriously.
All right, just hit me up with a text. I'll be glad to join. It's been great.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Todd.
All right, you're welcome.
Love you. Take care, brother.
All right, love you too.
Bye.
Peace. Keep it up.
All right. All right. Is there anything? I think we covered it all, didn't we?
We got covered most.
Anyone want to add anything?
No, I think we got to shut it down.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. That's Planet Green Trees 520 for tonight. We'll see you and talk to you next week. Be safe.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Before you plead, call me, Attorney Michael Komorn.
important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.